Hey everyone, Colin Gray from the Australian Rock Show YouTube channel and more importantly Vicious Kitten Records. Small label that's continuing to fight the war against the jive. I'll talk about a future project coming up early next year at the end of this episode. But today I want to talk about this new album by a great band from Worcester, Massachusetts called the Ballbusters, previously Rick Blaze and the Ballbusters. We're going to do that. I said to you last week I'd be back Friday afternoon, try to make it a little more regular. It is Friday afternoon here. You are sitting in Cole's Bar. I'm Cole, surrounded by great rock and roll and just you people here watching me. And today I'd like to pick a different kind of theme. And I started thinking a little bit about this album to talk about, primarily because the band are still around and back together, but also to talk a little bit about the history of the band. It's not meant to be a complete chronology of the band, but if you indulge me a little bit, I can talk a little bit about the band's history and why you should be checking out this great band called the Ballbusters if you aren't familiar with them. So this, first of all, look at this album, which is called Fight to Win, Best of the Ballbusters. The first 20 years, 1991 to 2021. So what this is a compilation album of the band's 3 albums that came out during that time frame. But what's interesting about this is the band, I guess, became known as a band whose sound was very much embedded in the Johnny Thunders, Rolling Stones kind of school of rock and roll. But what's interesting about this is it certainly includes some of those great songs that represent that sort of sound, but it also includes half a dozen numbers that are unreleased, including some ballads, which to me demonstrates that the band was certainly more than a one-trick pony. Great songwriters, all of them. And if you're looking for a comparison, perhaps stuff like the Jacobites, who could also write great ballads and also have great rocking tunes as well. So this album has 19 tracks on it, and some of those unreleased songs include She Slips Into You, which had not been released before, a song called Snow, which is a ballad, which is absolutely fantastic ballad, really highlights written by Jeff Crane, guitar player, and also highlights Rick Blaze's distinctive vocal. No one sounded like singer Rick Blaze. Demo version of Kathy, a live version of the song Lust from Switzerland, and also song Fight to Win, which had previously been released, was not released on any album. Demo version of Little Gypsy, the Dave Cuneo tune, and also cover version of Dear Friend, previously unreleased as well, which was the last song that Rick Blaze recorded before he passed away. And of course, Dear Friend, the Paul McCartney and Wings tune off the 1971 Wings album, which was all about McCartney writing all about Lennon, that appeared on the Wildlife album. So if you allow a little bit of indulgence, as I said, I'll talk to you a little bit about these guys, if I can. They released 3 albums and some solo albums. All those guys were very prolific in their solo careers. But I guess the band ostensibly were called Rick Blaze and the Ballbusters to start with. And as the title of that album references, they were from 1991. But Rick Blaze had been around before that in different bands. Primarily, I guess he was in a band called the Bohemians. And I'm just going to put this on pause and just go and I'll show you the record. So, this is the band that Rick Blaze and his brother Jeff were in, called Bohemians, which came out in 1986. Great record if you can find it. It's hasn't been reissued anywhere, and came out in 1986. A lot of cool tunes on this record, so you're a fan of, you know, Stones, Thunders, any of that sort of stuff, this is certainly worthwhile checking out. So I guess Rick also had a band called the Blazing Angels before the Ballbusters, and included Rick Cormier in that lineup as well. And did an interview with Rick a few years ago. We talked a lot about that time in Rick's life, Rick Blazer's life around the Blazing Angels period. So I guess let's go back to 1996. This is a sealed copy I still have, another version as well. This is the debut album by Rick Blaze and the Ballbusters. That mid-90s period was a really fertile period if you were into great rock and roll inspired by Thunders. There were a ton of artists around and more places to play. People like Kevin Kay and Freddie Lynx. You know, there's a scene going on in Japan. Jeff Dahl, Nicky Sudden, you know, Freddie Lynx, all these guys. It was a really fertile period. I think it's certainly a better period than now, but I think, you know, in the immediate years after Thunders passed away, all these guys really started to rise up as sort of songwriters and step into their own right, certainly with the originality of their own music, although they were quite often all influenced by Thunders in one way, shape or another. But I do remember hearing this album for the first time and was just completely blown away. And it still stacks up today. You know, the title songs, first one, Rockin' in New York City, is just an anthem. It still sounds great today. If you haven't heard that, Homeless, Buried But Not Dead, Kathy, the original, Ballad of Johnny Thunders, written by Rick Blaze and Rick Cormier. And again, to me, other than the tribute song that came out by a guy from the Subway Set who released, I forget his name now, who released that Thunders tribute immediately after Thunders died. Almost had his name then, forgot his name. This song, The Ballad of Johnny Thunders, I still think is the second best, or right up there with the great song tributes to Vic Goddard, from the Subway Set. Tributes to Thunders. Great cover of Chinese Rocks. All sorts of stuff. A couple of bonus tracks as well. So that is worthwhile checking out if you also can find it. Hard to find. I guess by talking to you about this sort of history, I'm leading up to the present, okay? Because importantly, the Ballbusters, led by Jeff Crane, are still around and still playing. So, you know, forget about tribute bands, forget about cover bands, forget about all the beige rock and roll that's thrust down your throat. Go out and support killer original live music. Doesn't matter whether there's 50 people there, doesn't matter whether there's 10 people there. Support people who are playing live original music because it matters. So, second album was this one, which came out in 1999 on Vicious Kitten Records out of Canberra, Australia, which is my label. And again, this was a wonderful album, great songs, amazing production as well. A lot of great original tunes. Title track by Jeff Crane, Manhattan Babylon, Memory, Solid Rock, Loose Cannon, They Loved You to Death. Also about Thunders, written by Rick and Johnny Black. Pretty Messed Up. That's another great anthemic song that should be bigger than what it is. That's a great, great hit single, in my opinion, written by Jeff Crane. And a whole bunch of songs here. It's basically a live set that was recorded, Ballbusters live in Worcester. This was released in 1999, produced by Jeff Crane, and also available if you check maybe on Discogs or eBay, you'll find a copy. And perhaps I'm a little biased, but I also still think that this is the best Ballbusters album. This really came together. This also was released on Vicious Kitten Records in 2001, and this really shows the band at their creative peak, both in terms of songwriting prowess and musicianship, originality. Very tight band, and this was the one. This could have been the one. This should have been the one. Got some good reviews in different publications and things around the world. Did get a review in Rolling Stone magazine in Australia from memory. Got some press here, different parts of Australia. But again, took a different path, and it didn't actually resonate. But those who get it certainly got it. Great artwork as well with this. Now, the engineered and mastered by a guy called Roger Lavallee, and the sound on this is really amazing. It's really loud, punchy, and dominant. Great song, Slipping Away, title track, People's Republic of Rock and Roll, The Word, Antichrist. Man, Antichrist. If you don't know that one, you listen to that and hear the great vocals from Kathy Peters on that. It's certainly well worthwhile checking out as well. Cover of the Walter Lure tune, Sorry. Born to Die, which was the Dave Cuneo song, written song about Johnny Thunders, and the great tune, the autobiographical tune, the Ballbusters theme, Back Where We Started. Fantastic. Okay, so I guess what happened after that is the band sort of continued on in one way, shape or form, and then also released some of those other tunes, or recorded those tunes that haven't seen the light of day until this one. Okay, which is out, was released last year on Incorrect Records. So I will include a link to the Bandcamp page where you can get this. Okay, as I was mentioning before, all these guys were great musicians in their own right. Rick recorded a bunch of solo material as well. Did record a great album with Walter Lure, which came out on Dionysus Records. Forget what year. Rick Blaze and Walter Lure live in New York City. I think you can still sort of get that. But Jeff Crane, the guitar player, had been around also since the late 70s as part of the Worcester, Massachusetts punk scene. Had come up through a band called Commandos, and was also in band who released a couple of great singles in the late 70s. But who also went on to be in bands like The Cinders and Classic Ruins. So his whole history as well. So as I said, he has reformed the Ballbusters, but he released an amazing solo album called Piece of the Action in 1999, which, I remember when it was released at the time, and Nicky Sudden also reviewed it and was a huge fan of it. Great original songs, a nod to people like Thunders and others, but certainly the playing and caliber of the songs is just amazing. Really, really original, catchy, melodic, hard rock with great pop sensibility. Songs like Piece of the Action, 1 a.m., Manhattan Babylon, which was Jeff's song, of course, title track from the second album. Amazing version of Jeff Dahl's Going Underground, which has to be heard to be believed. Cheap Champagne, Pretty Messed Up, The Great Beer and Gasoline, great cover of Thunder's Hurt Me, and of course cover of James Williamson and Iggy's song Night Theme on that as well. That's also worthwhile picking up. Dave Cuneo, the other guitar player, released 2 great solo albums as well. This one was called You're Not Around Anymore, and this one I think is around 25 years old now. I had the other one as well that Dave released, I just couldn't find it before. Dave, of course, sadly no longer with us, but again, almost an embarrassment of riches, musical riches in this lineup. These guys were just almost a supergroup in terms of their musicality, their ability and competency as musicians, and they're all great songwriters. So, it's lightning in a bottle, those sort of bands, and bands are all about chemistry, and these guys had great chemistry. So Dave Cuneo, this album, and the other one was called the other album's called On the Streets Again, okay? And that's also, they're really hard to find, but, also great. And side projects, well, no shortage of side projects. Rick was very much always looking for opportunities, and had recorded a bunch of compilation albums with different bands and things, which I'll talk a little bit about. One of those projects was this one, which was called The Disciples, which was Dave Cuneo, Jeff Crane, Richie Molesso, and Kevin Kaig. And they also recorded an album which came out in 2003 on 13th Street Entertainment. Great stuff. Lenda Lenny Bruce, Walk That Walk, Daddy Rolling Stone, Johnny and Niggs, Melody Live, Hit the Road. Great stuff. Excellent. Now, 1999, in 2000, Vicious Kitten Records released a compilation album called Rock and Roll War. And Rick rang me one day and said, I've got a great idea. Why don't we open up a branch of Vicious Kitten Records in Boston? I said, Rick, that sounds like a fine idea. And the first project we were going to do was a compilation album, which was going to be, I guess, the second volume of Rock and Roll War. And it actually did come to fruition, which was this one. It's called Rock and Roll War Volume 2. And it's the CD. Looks like that. Okay. And I guess Rick and I had a list of bands we wanted on this compilation. It's the cover. This occasionally turns up on eBay, maybe Discogs. But it's 22 bands, and a lot of bands that Rick championed, and a lot of bands that ended up on some of the compilation albums that he released as well. But interestingly, it includes songs that haven't quite been released anywhere else until recently. So certainly there's a song on here by Cheetah Chrome called The Morning's Gonna Come, which was recorded specifically for this album, but was not released anywhere else. So that's only available on this. Great songs by Streetwalking Cheetahs, Golden Arms, Kevin Kay. The Nicky Southern song No Good in Heaven was not released on an album until around 6 years ago, I think. Jet Boy Blues by Michael Thimron, Thunder's Swedish guitar player from the early 80s, great song. Blood on the Knife by Dave Cusworth from the Jacobites. There's also a live version of Too Much Donkey Business from Waterloo and the Ballbusters. The Bullies, New York City Man, a whole bunch of stuff on this album if you can get it. Okay, and unfortunately we only did one album together with our Enterprise, but at least we got that out. Okay, and that one has some great songs on it. What else? So I'm not going to share sort of too many other things. I do have a lot of promotional material and things from the Ballbusters over the years. Newsletter that Rick produced in 1996. You know, there's Jeff Crane and Rick at Coney Island High. Don't know if you can see that. Yeah, out on the loose. Looks like trouble, indeed. These original photos that were used on the People's Republic, a rock and roll album. A couple of those sort of things. Okay, and I always remember that Rick said to me, you know, this photo, I'm not happy about this because it looks like I've got a halo. So perhaps that was, you know, that's a good sign, I thought, as the years went by. Rick Blaze and Ballbuster stickers. I used to have these on the car. Still got a couple spare. And just some press, full page ads from Melbourne Press from 2000, around the time Rock and Roll War Volume 2 came out. Okay, which is pretty cool as well. I've kept some stuff. I was talking about some of Rick's other projects that he used to do. He certainly was very prolific. These compilations, always looking to get some of this stuff licensed as well. The Underground Army, David Peel, Blazing Angels, Crystal Mirrors, early 90s album with him and Johnny Black. Also, some of these compilations other people may still have as well. East Village Invasion, that one as well, was a great one. Some of these, still kept on some of these. And there's a picture there of the band live. Rick, Doug Slade, Jimmy Buscarino on drums, Kathy Peters on bass, Jeff Crane on guitar. And of course, Peter Wolf there from Jay Gold's band. If you can see that. Sorry, work with me. Technology is not my strongest thing. So, let's go back to where we started. Let's circle back, as they say. Rick Blaze and the Ballbusters. Now the Ballbusters. Importantly, continuing on, even though the late great Rick Blaze is nowhere around, but his spirit lives on through the music. Rick passed away in 2011, 9th of August 2011. I'm trying to find the other album, which is that one. And January 9, 2013, sadly, Dave Cuneo also passed away. The spirit of those guys lives on. It's important that people's memory lives on through the music. As long as people are playing music, thinking about them, keeps their memories and their spirit alive. I believe in that. I think that's very, very important. So, this is the album, Fight to Win, by the Ballbusters. If you don't have it, please, I'll send you a link to I'll include a link to the Bandcamp page. It's only available for $7 digital for the entire album. Right? It's a real no-risk buy. Discover this great band who are still around, as I said. Jeff's out front leading them on vocals and guitar. Jeff, they did, I think it was May this year, they did a live TV studio appearance. I don't know if that's still available. I'll try and find the link to that as well and include that for you to check out. Importantly, the band is still gigging. Check out their Facebook page. I believe they have a gig coming up in Worcester on December 23rd. How good would that to be in Worcester on that night? If you're in that area, if you're in Boston, if you're even further south, make the trip to Worcester and check out the Ballbusters. You will not be disappointed. Folks, thanks for indulging me. As I said, on Friday afternoon, I've been taking a little bit of a trip down through memory lane with a great band called the Ballbusters, whose music was important, still is important, and released 2 great albums on Vicious Kitten Records label that's still around. We have a new album out by Kevin Kay, which is this one, which is called Broken. I'll send a link to that as well. Check out the Bandcamp page. You can get all the products available now. Folks, thanks for watching. We'll see you next Friday for another video. Who knows what it's going to be? Have to tune in. Thank you.